Today, this is our third webinar, and we are going to talk about the category review, which, as you know, both for retailer and for the supplier is a very important moment because this is the opportunity to review the global strategy. You remember in the previous workshops, we talked about the range, which of course is a very important part of the category. We talked about the promotions, which is also very important, and the way to activate sales and push the product forward to shoppers. And here we're going to take a more holistic approach where we are going to look at the category globally, right? So it means we are going to use part of the knowledge we learned into the range review. We're going to also use part of the knowledge we learned in the promotion, and we're going to integrate some additional insights. So really, that's the good moment to get started. The objective of this workshop is really maybe the most important one is to share an idea of a framework. A framework meaning this is a process, and inside each process there are steps, and inside each steps there might be some components. So the idea is to say, well, this is maybe not the best, but this is a process. You have to, Kunter, you have to help me admit the ego. The second thing that we want to reach today is to say, well, once again, how can we, without too much difficulties, without spending too much time, doing the right thinking, make sure that all the things we identify, we can turn them as much as possible into practical actions that shoppers will see either in the shelf or on the screen or on the app. As always, in all of our webinars, one very important dimension is to say, how can I use, as I'm a key account, how can I use this category review to strengthen my relationship with the retailer? And you've seen in the title, we say brand category review, brand focused category review. So it means that we're really trying to capture that point of convergence between the category that the retailer is driving and the sales of the brand that you guys are driving, and trying to make sure that there is as much connection as possible there. And of course, if we find the right agreement to make sure that this is going to help us drive the business. The agenda for those who are joining our webinar for the second or for the third time is always the same structure. We're going to share some definition first. We're going to look at the risk and the opportunities of doing or not doing this category review. And we are then going to look into the definition, the processes, the steps themselves. Once we're going to look at this overview, we are going to little by little execute them, deploy them, show examples, so you guys can hopefully come back to it and use it. And then, of course, at the end of the day, the objective is to make sure that you can present it in a way that is compelling enough, not only internally for you to convince your boss and your colleagues, but also to convince and embark your retailer on board, at least on some of the components that really make sense, because what you're building is going to help them grow the category as well. So let's get started into this. In our agenda, and our first point is to think a little bit about definition. So category review, I'm not going to detail what is category review. You know it. Basically, if I summarize it, this is a strategic moment when I say, well, that's how the category looks like. This is how it has evolved from the past. Those are some of the things we are very happy about. Those are some of the things we have together to be aware of. And here are some of the actions that we want to drive. Now, of course, for the supplier, there is an additional dimension where, not for all suppliers, when you are ready, when you feel you have enough resources, when you feel that there is already a very good relationship with the retailer, says, well, I might want to take this opportunity to prepare and propose a captainship where I'm going to act as a pilot for the whole category, giving directions based on data, based on facts, and drive the whole category for the retailer and present him, of course, all of my actions. So it's a pretty important moment. Another reminder is just for us to keep in mind that the key sales drivers that both retailer and manufacturer have together is the assortment. So the assortment will be the new item, will be the performing item, will be the item that don't perform so well, that well. There will be the distribution. Some items are so popular, we need to make sure that they are present in every store. Some of them are not done to be in every store. The availability, of course, from service level to accuracy of ordering to having enough stock on shelf to drive growth, and promotion. So when we're talking about promotion, it can be web promotion, in-store promotion. And here we're talking very much about the quality of the item that we select, the mechanic that we select. And we are going to introduce in this category review a dimension which is more KPI rather than the driver. Is we're going to look at certain components of the shopper behavior that are going to help us corroborate, confirm, or maybe change a bit our mind on the strategy we propose, because the way customer behave, and we can see that in the basket, we can see that in the frequency, we can see that in the type of products they buy, is going to tell us, yes, that strategy makes sense, or no, it doesn't make sense. Okay, now let's step back for a moment. And as usual, let's ask ourselves, what are the risks of not doing a category reviews? What are the opportunities of not doing a category reviews? So the opportunity are pretty big. First is the best opportunity, even internally, to make sure that I, as a key account manager, understand what is going on at the retailer on the category level. Not only my brand, but what is happening. The second thing is to make sure that I understand how, when I look at the category performance and its trends, when I look at my brands and its trends, to make sure that I can identify what are the areas where I am really aligned with the retailer and what are the areas where I'm not aligned. And when thinking about align, I'm not saying that the manufacturer needs to do all the time 100% of what the retailer is saying, because the retailer might also have some views which are not always correct. But it's to say I need to have a core support for him or her, for the retailer, because it's impossible for me to be successful without them being successful. It's the best moment in terms of range and assortment to identify if it's the right moment and where is the right location to launch a new item. Because as you know, when I'm going to launch a new item, I'm not always necessarily going to grow and grow and grow my range. There might be some items that go away. And this is a very costly exercise, right? We don't want to fail that. We also don't want to fail for our company, the manufacturer. We don't want to fail for our bosses. We don't want to fail for our retailer, because we don't want to lose credibility. And of course, last but not least, is when I'm looking at what's my competition doing, it's the good opportunity to say, well, I might not be the winner of everything everywhere, but I want to tackle a little bit more of that competitor. I want to grow some market share here and there. So this is all the opportunities, internal, external, looking at the relationship that I will have if I do the efforts to do this category review with my brand in focus. The risk is that, well, it's a bit like the ostrich syndrome. If I don't do it, what can happen? What can happen is that my business is going well or not going well, and I just don't know it. So which means I will have no way of being a driver of it. There might be some innovation in the category corresponding to shopping trends, consumption trends, and I will miss it. I might be spending my money doing promotions, because promotions are expensive, without having any results. So basically, I'm going to waste potential return on investment for me, for my retail as well. And progressively, if I'm not following this up, shoppers might switch to other brands. might switch to other type of products offering because I'm not doing it. So we always have this approach of saying, depending on the importance of the category, depending on the importance of my brand, if the opportunities outweigh the risk, there is no hesitation. I really must go for it. How often should I do it? It really depends on you. I would say at least once a year, if your category is maybe not a big one, and maybe every quarter if you have a solid and robust JBP, and of course every month if you are trying or maybe already having the role of category captain. So once we have outweighed the opportunities and the risk, we have decided to do this. There is always the question of what's the best way to do this. So on our side, don't be too much impressed by the slide or by the number of boxes. We're saying there is no perfect process, but there are some standards or best practices. And what you see in front of you is a standard of best practices. So let's break it down a little bit so you guys are not too afraid or say, oh my God, I have to do all this. That will never be able to do it. The first thing is we start with the end in mind. It means we always start by saying the executive summary of my analysis is going to, is ending up with that type of actions, which I took because I identified that type of trends on the shopper, in the market, and the consumption. And because also I want to beat my competition, which is basically helping me identify some opportunities. We start with the end. You, your boss, your retailer want to know, fine, don't go through, don't drive me through all the slides, analyze, tell me the results. And then we're going to step back, because now the goal of the category review will be to demonstrate why my executive summary, it means the actions that I propose, are making a lot of sense. The first step that I do is the performance review. And when I look at the performance review, you will see we're going to go through this. We are going to look at what is happening on the market. It means outside of that retailer, when I'm looking at maybe my business with other retailers, when I'm navigating some of the Nielsen insights or Kantar insights or market research insight. And I'm going to also look at the performance of the category at the retailer. And what I'm going to look at this level, and I'm going to say at the category level in terms of performance, how did the category perform? How did my brand perform in that category? And I'm going to duplicate this into each subcat. This is going to lead me to opportunities. Then I'm going to shift gears. And once I have finished my performance reviews, I'm going to look at the shopper behavior. And when we think about shopper behavior, I'm going to look at the same approach, category, subcategory, and the opportunities. We're going to look at what are the changes in terms of frequency, in terms of type of products that are being purchased, packing, prices, number of products that they buy. At the stage 4, I have understood what's the performance globally in the market and my category. I understand what's happening at the shoppers, at the retailer. Then I'm going to start a drill into the sales drivers. I'm going to look at the range. So you remember the range effectiveness workshop. We're going to review some of the fundamentals. We are going to look at the promotions. We are going to look at some of the fundamentals. And then we're going to put all this in a structured form that will help us build our executive summary, build the brand category review, and present it to the retailer. Now, just before we start diving in, when you look at those 6 steps, some of you might want to do some of the things some of the time. Some of you might want to do all of the things all of the time. But whatever the level of depth you guys are going into the subcomponents of each step, one recommendation, being myself a former retailer, don't jump any of the stages. Because you might have performance review with only the data sets that you have, that's okay. You might have shoppers information only with the data set that you have, and that's okay. And the same for the range and the same for the promotion. But you want to have a complete, professional, holistic view of what is going on. And if you go to the retailer and you don't have all the insights, but the retailer see that there is a thought process, there is a structured approach, he or she will be very happy to give you some additional insights, either to confirm that your strategy is correct or to tell you, hey, be careful, because if you look at the numbers, this is not going exactly like this. So I think, dear madam or dear sir, we need to adjust the category. So now what we're going to do is we are going to go through every single step. We're going to look at the theory, we are going to look at the practice, and we are going to look at, hey, in real, how could that really be transformed into actions? Okay, step one, the executive summary. You remember we start with the end in mind. The executive summary is the synthesis of everything that you have captured about the category and about the sales and the shopper. So remember, we said there are 4 components: the actions, the trends, the competition, and the opportunities. The objective is to really start the discussion with actions. Of course, each action is going to deliver some business impact, right? In terms of stock, in terms of sales, in terms of assortment and range. But we want to start with action. Remember one thing, dear friends, manufacturers, you are managing maybe 1, 2 brands, maybe 3 or 4 accounts, retail accounts. Your interlocutor at the retailer side is managing tens of brands. So the faster you can hook that person into something very practical, the better it will be. You are going to always illustrate the summary of the key insights. So how would that look like in reality? It would be, if you look at the structure, it would say the actions that I can take at the end of the day, and this is the right block on that day, would be, in terms of assortment, this is the item that I propose to launch, and this is the item that I propose to start. In terms of distribution, it will be, these are the items that I propose to increase the distribution. These are the items I propose to reduce the distribution. In terms of promotion, this is the planning I propose, the number of promotion I propose, the channel I propose. In terms of supply chain and availability, here are the 1 or 2 actions that I propose. And in terms of price change, this is what I propose. Remember, this is a set of proposal. So starting with this, you have been able to do this because you did your analysis, because you measured your KPI, and because you listed this opportunity. So it could look like something like this. Say, for example, hey, dear sir, the objective of this category review, dear Mr. Retailer, is I want to increase my contribution to sales growth of 3.5%. I want to help the category grow to 3.5%, and that's going to be our contribution in what I will propose to you. This, on our side, will be translated by a sales growth we are targeting at 5.7%. Shop penetration at the shopper side will be 3.5%, and we want to add 3 points in our promotion intensity because we want to be in a better leading position. In terms of assortment, we are going to propose you to work with an assortment of 18 SKUs. And these 18 SKUs, you will see that we will propose you to remove 3. There are some are not performing, some are coming at the end of their product life cycle. And we are going to propose you 6 new SKUs, including 2 for which we want to propose you to increase the distribution. Internally, our objective, if we can contribute to your category growth by 3.5%, we hope we can increase our market share by 12.9%. So in terms of actions, the products we are considering to launch a set of new items in the small packs, and I will explain you why in terms of trends. We suggest to review the multi-pack pricing because there is some discrepancies across the monopack and the multi-pack. And I think here we have the opportunity to offer a better consistency to the shopper and hopefully improve both sales and margin on both sides. We want to increase the distribution from 75% to 100% for X items that are multi-pack 6. especially in the supermarket format, where we will demonstrate to you shoppers are shifting from monopack to multi-pack. And you will also see that this shift to multi-pack is being accompanied by a decrease in shopping frequency. And in terms of promotion, we're going to propose you to implement 12 promotions, 3 direct campaigns to drive traffic. In terms of the trends that are really making us look at this and propose those actions is because the supermarket channel drove the category sales very much so, why the other channels face some decrease. So at the same time, we want to support the decreasing channel, but we want to help you serve that supermarket channel. And we also see that we will show you the numbers. Family shoppers seem to shift from medium to big size, lowering the shopping frequency. And we think there is an opportunity here to be captured. Our competitors are the brand A and B, and they have been growing sales more than us. They have been better than us in the past because they could increase their shopper spending significantly. And us, we have been not doing as well. We want to compensate that, and we want to change that this year. So in terms of opportunity, just to wrap this executive summary, sir or ma'am, shoppers' demand is increasing with big segment. So we want to go there. Shoppers tend to buy multi-pack products, and my brand pricing is not as effective as it is. We want to change that. This is an opportunity for us. Our brand top SKU can be better distributed. That's an opportunity for all of us. We have not been very active in in-store activities in the past. We want to change that. That's an opportunity for both of us. And at last but not least, we want to help you strengthen the growth of the supermarket. So that, you see, it took maybe 3 to 4 minutes. This is just the summary of the findings. And maybe the first part, the objective and the action, might be enough. Maybe after that, the reader say, okay, let's go into the details. But here, I have my story solid and robust. I established legitimacy and credibility as well. This guy has been doing his homework. There is no reason why you should not listen to him. So let's start with the step 1, which we call step 2, which is the performance review. Here, remember, what we want to look at is category trends and identify the areas where we are underperforming, lagging behind, or where we can reinforce our strength. We are going to look category by category, and for each category, I might want to remember yes or no, that really depends on you. I'm going to look at the subcats. In certain retailers that are very important, I definitely want to go to the subcat. In certain channels, I might want to go to the subcat. In other channels, I might just want to look at the category level. The key components I'm going to look at here is market data from third companies like Nielsen or Kantar, as I was mentioning, or any research company, because I want to benchmark with what's happening globally. And then internally, we're going to use the usual suspects, the KPIs that you know very well by now, which will be my sales value, my sales volume, my market share, how do I perform by channel, and the sales evolution by region or by store clusters. What we call opportunity is where are the subcat or cat where I'm losing share? What are the subcat which have a downtrend? Because I might have some ideas to propose to the retailer to lift them up. What are the competitors I need to look very closely? And what are the areas where my brand has not been performing as well as I want? So here, if you use, when you do your own performance review, you guys might want to use this page, because here the team has been listing the key indicators that you need to be able to follow. So I'm not going to read them through, but you can use this as a guideline, because until it becomes an automatism, this is not always easy to remember everything or to have to write everything down. So here we put some of these examples of the strands. So here we can see, for example, and this is really the retailer perspective, we are not talking about brands. We want to find what are the trends. So we can say, in this category at that retailer, I can see that the Sunway rice is really driving the business. I can see that basmati and shan rice also not so bad, but I can also see that certain of the other rice types are not so good. I can also see that this channel is going well, that channel is not going so well. I can see the evolution of the market share across the different set of categories where already here, I can see what's going on. So it gives me some information about the trends. But then identify the categories that are working well, identify the categories that are not going so well, identify the evolution of the market share. But at the same time, I want to have a holistic vision of what is happening at my competitor level. So when I'm going to look at my competitor level, my brain is on the top. I'm going to say, okay, so for me, my business is growing better than the category. Yes, no. Am I doing better than last year? Yes or no. What's my growth? What's my market share? Is my market share growing? Yes or no? Green is yes, red is no. What is the online? What is the channel where the growth is the biggest? How many promotion did I have? And if it's green, it means I have more promotion than last year. What's my distribution? What's my number of SKU? And what is the number of new SKU I've been launching? And I want to compare that, those very high level KPI with my competition. And here already, I know if I'm in a good position or not in such a good position, because if I'm in this scenario, for example, I know that in a good position from a sales perspective, because the retailer is going to tell me, yeah, Frederick, it's true. Your category is definitely helping us drive growth. That's very good. No worries there. And it's also going to tell me, yes, it's true. You've been doing better in terms of promotion than last year. That's correct. But there is one point where I'm not happy and I'm basically quite frustrated. You didn't have any product innovation. So when I look at this benchmark, I already know what are some of the comments and maybe arguments that the retailer might tell me. It says innovation, market share. Am I driving the category sales growth or am I not driving the category sales growth? And I will have a look at this at the global retailer, the category level. I can have the same look at my brand level and the subcat. So once I have done this, it means that I have identified the subcats, I have identified my competitor benchmark, and of course, I'm going to add all the insights that are coming from the market if I can have them. So if I take an example, I would say, well, the way I'm going to look at my insights components, I would imagine this category is the ready mix. Say, well, I'm going to look at the sales growth by segment, and I can find that 10% of growth is in the supermarket, and it's driven by the big side product. I looked at the fact that I gain year-to-date market share. I look at the fact that in this category, new items have been driving sales. And most of the brands that have high growth is because they add new items. I also identify the fact that in small size, my brand still not doing very well. I can see that I have a challenge at 65% service level. That was in the supermarket channel. And in the convenience channel, I can see, well, my growth is not so bad. And that is interesting because both big and small size are driving, but I lost year-to-date sales because of my low service level. And I also identify the fact that new brands have been listed in this channel, meaning that the retailer is trying to increase the relevance of its offering in this channel. Remember, when you look at the numbers, we need to be a bit like helicopter, in the sense that I'm going to look at the major trends, the numbers, the growth, but I'm also looking at innovation. I'm going to look at packing. I'm going to look at new brands. I'm going to look at promotion intensity. So I need to have that helicopter approach so I can understand what is the strategy that the retailer is trying to implement. The more I can capture that strategy, the more I can help. The less I understand the strategy, the less I can help, and the more I'm putting myself in a conflictual approach, or maybe even being perceived as somebody that doesn't care. So here, this is an important stage. Another way of making a very advanced or very detailed, I would rather say, a summary board on the performance review. We put it here, so same thing is the idea to give you some guidelines about how it could be helping you capture the information and gather it. Because as you know, the big challenge is to have all this information to capture and manage. I have done my performance review. I've seen what the market's doing. I have been looking at what the category is doing. Look at that by channel, and by channel for each category, depending on the strategic priority. I've been looking into the subcats and say, okay, what is the situation? I've been looking at my performances. Now I'm going to switch my perspective and I'm going to look at the shoppers. So when I look at the shoppers, there is a minimum information that I want to capture. I don't want to go too much in details because maybe I don't have the information, first of all. And second, because maybe there are certain number of things which are maybe not creating that much value for me as a key account. But what I want to understand what are the traffic and spending trends. So for me, why do I want to do this? Because if I'm building a strategy for a brand in a channel, in a category, or in a subcategory, is I want to know, is my strategy, is the activity plan that I'm going to propose to the retailer be designed to help drive the spending or drive traffic? So of course, some of us are going to think, but I want both. Yeah, we all want both sales and margin and free shipping. However, in practice, you need to have one key driver, because you're not going to apply the same strategy. You're not going to apply the same product selection in your promos. You're not going to apply the same mechanics. So understanding the trend in traffic and in spending is maybe one of the most strategic moments to show how you can collaborate with your retailer. And you also want to look shoppers for a second reason. One is traffic and spending. And the second one is to say, well, what are the cross-merchandising opportunities and bundle opportunities? Because those are the one, maybe this is, the devil's in the detail. But if I don't look at them, maybe my competition do. So I don't want to let the competition capture that opportunity. And this is going to come from the analysis of the trend changer. So how do I look at this? The first one is I'm going to look at the total number of transactions that there is in this category. So when I look at the transaction, it's going to tell me, well, there is more or less people coming to buy product in this category. This is the graph on the top. As you know, we know it's not enough, right? But that because the traffic, it might have been raining, there might be some political issues, there might be some seasonality issues, but still I want to measure that indicator. The second indicator I want to look at is in my category, how does the spending of my shopper evolve? Why do I want to know that? Because if for example, I look at the graph, which is below the value by basket, it means that my offering cannot go too much on top of that. Would that make sense? If my shopper is spending an average of $31 into this category to propose something which is representing $40, no, it won't. So that's my first trend. So here, if I look at this trend and say, well, traffic is definitely back in this category, this is really interesting. And I can see that there is a certain level of stability in the basket. So it means that they keep on having a regular purchase behavior. We had some drop, maybe they are seasonal, and we had some increase, which also maybe are seasonal. Now that level of indication is good, and we think it's not sufficient, because the last indicator I want to look at, and which is also very important for you retailer, is the level of penetration. So you remember the penetration, it corresponds to the number of people who come visit the store, and out of them, how many of them go to buy product in the category. If you remember what we shared the other webinar, if my penetration increase, it means that basically my category is being more attractive to my shoppers. It can be more attractive maybe because there is a seasonality, because maybe there are some product innovation, maybe because there are some promotion, because I changed the planogram, or maybe I set up a new concept. Whatever the reason, it means that the people are coming more. If it's decreasing, well, that is also something which is very embarrassing, both for my brand, if my brand is in this category, but also for my retailer. Because if a shopper penetrates less that category, it means that the retailer is going to get less business from there. And you remember what can be some of the reasons that have a category have a decreasing penetration rate. Sometimes it can be just availability, not enough products, missing top items. It can be a pricing issue. The prices are not correct. They are too expensive, or they are out of the market. It can be a lack of innovation, missing products, as I was saying before. It can be also not enough promotion. So it can be a set of reasons. For me, of course, I would be willing to know what is going on in detail, but if the basket penetration is decreasing, I might think, well, my strategy can be to help the retailer increase the penetration in this category, if this category is strategic for them. If my unit per basket is dropping, and so it makes them lose a little bit of business, I might want to have a strategy, which is, you remember, instead of being focused on traffic, is being focused on spending. Here, if I look at impact, I would say that globally, my penetration is decreasing while my total store basket is increasing. And here I have the number of units by basket, which is decreasing. So I have two options. I say, well, I can help them work on penetration, so generating more traffic, or I can help them propose a strategy that is going to help them increase the basket. Which one to choose? There is one way to know it best, is prepare both strategies. You have your own preference, of course, as a brand, but also be open and say, well, Mr. Retailer, Madam Retailer, what is the most important for you? For us, we already have a plan ready to help you drive traffic. But what about 1 or 2 campaigns or 10% of our activities to help you spend the basket? Here, when you have that level of information, you are really being extremely collaborative. The retailer maybe doesn't have the time to look at this information. When you do this, you help them save time. I'm going to then look at the cross-merchandising. So the cross-merchandising, I'm going to look at a brand within a category, and I'm going to look at what are the other brands that are the most purchased in the basket of people who are buying this type of product. So here I look at an example. Of course, this is a mock-up data of saying, well, in this category, I can see that 33.99% of the people buy the brand Great Buy, then they buy Lucky Me, then no brand that Great Taste. I will do the same analysis to say, well, what are the other brands that the shoppers are buying, and I can go down to the SKU. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the SKU level and say, well, I can see that most of the people who buy my product are also buying another type of product, which is for my own brand, or which is maybe another category. And then I'm going to propose bundles, because here I have the percentage of number of shoppers who do this. So if I was, and this is again a mock example, if I was saying, if I have a Great Buy offer, that I marry with Lucky Me, it means that out of the shoppers, I would have the greatest chance of having those guys also buy this other product. So if I was in a basket-driven strategy, I would definitely look for cross-merchandising and bundle identifications. So if I make a summary board example, analyzing the basket trends, I analyze the value trend of the basket, I've analyzed the traffic, I've analyzed the penetration. So I've been putting all this information together, and I would say, well, in terms of category traffic and spending in supermarket, what I saw is that, oh, sorry, I'm clicking on that meeting. I can see that in supermarket, we lost traffic, but the spending increased. For me at my level, I lost penetration, but my shoppers are spending more. And I saw that my shoppers often buy XXX product with XXX together, cross-merchandising analysis. In terms of findings for the convenience store, I saw that the category lost traffic as well, but also the spending increased. Here, in opposite to the supermarket, I gained in penetration, but my shoppers are spending less. And I can see that the cross-merchandising opportunity is this. So I'm building on this. I'm going to use my logical thinking and say, well, I need to increase my penetration in supermarket. I need to drive the spending in CVS. And because the spending in CVS is going down, I need to find a way to keep on my sales if they buy cheaper products, but maintain the margin. So I might have to launch or find one or two items or build a certain number of promotions that are going to match this shopping trend. Now we go to the range. When we go to the range, you remember the first thing we're going to look at is the assortment. We're going to look at the range effectiveness. We are going to look at the performance of the product. And we are going to look at the actions. We can do the same thing. Here we are, as we said before, going through category first, then the channel, then the cat again, and then the subcat. Remember the actions that we can propose from our analysis. We can launch new products. We can increase the visibility of some of our products by deleting some of ours and saying, well, you know, today I have 30 centimeters of shelf space with 12 products. I propose to remove 2 of them because they are not making money, neither to you, nor to us. And I would like to keep the same share, the same space. So why not increase the visibility for top selling items? I might change the distribution of my products, saying that, hey, in that cluster, we might want to increase the number of products, decrease the number of products. And of course, we will have the opportunity to also increase from one channel to another. So at the end of the day, again, is like shoppers, is like the performances, our actions that we will propose are very, very practical. So let's dive into this. So remember, the first step is the brand effectiveness. What we said in the other workshop, and which we didn't add here, but of course you remember, is when you look at the range effectiveness by subcat, the first thing is to look at the retailer view. We want to look at the retailer view because we want to understand how the retailer is looking at its category. And you remember that simple color coding, it means, or simple thinking. If my share of sales is bigger than my share of SKU, I'm in a good position. Then I will have the same approach with my brand because I want to know, hey, my brand, how effective it is. Do I have a share of assortment which is bigger or smaller than my share of sales? I know that if my share of assortment is bigger than my share of sales, I have some problem of low selling item, and I will have either to do promotion or to remove them. If my share of sales is bigger than my share of assortment, well, I'm in a position to maybe maintain as it is, I'm also maybe in a good position to look at the lowest selling of my range, even though they are already good, but propose new items. Or I will have a third choice, which is maintain my existing assortment, it deliver good performance, the retailer is seeing it, and I want to give the chance to two or new SKUs. And remember, in the Pareto vision, I'm going to add an additional shopper dimensions, because I will be looking at how does my item perform in terms of housewife basket. Housewife basket meaning those are the items that are the most frequently present into the basket. So here, for example, I can see that this rice, Myanmar rice, is 13. This is the 13 most popular item in the rice category. It's very good. And then I can see that my seventh selling item is place 31 in this category. So maybe this one is not something I want to push very much. Then I'm going to look at this potential deletion or this potential strategy of reducing or increasing the distribution of my products. And one thing that is really going to help me there is not only am I looking at the item performance, but I'm going to look at the business trend. And here I can see, well, the trend is up. It's better to push that product. Here, the trend is really up. It's better to really accelerate that product. If my trend is down and my sales contribution is low, either I might have some availability issues, but I might strategically think again, how do I want to work with this product? So if we are making a summary of this range analysis, maybe delete the two underperforming SKUs to increase the visibility of the small size, and maybe to add top selling SKUs in the hypermarket or supermarket. So again, we have, if we step back, we have the same approach. I'm looking at a set of components. I'm writing the findings that those components are telling me. And I'm using my logic to say, how can I compensate or accelerate if the trend is positive? How can I compensate those trends by practical action? This practical action will always be on my assortment. Let me take some water. All right. We've been doing the global performance of the category. At the market, maybe sometimes comparing with other retail accounts, and also look at it in detail in the retailer with whom we are partnering. The second step, we've been looking at the shoppers. We've been looking at what are the opportunities in terms of traffic, in terms of penetration, or in terms of spending. And we saw that for each of the two main steps I mentioned, we look at them from channel perspective, category inside the channel, if I have the time, if this is important for me. And then for the advanced version, we've been looking at the subcat, because we know that shoppers don't behave the same in all channels. Now, the next component in our approach, and the last component, is the promotion. So the thing is, of course, promotion is critical. No promotions, much less attractivity, and it's important equally for the manufacturer and for the retailer. Here, the things we want to look at first is we want to evaluate the quality, the effectiveness of the promotion we did in the past, so we can set up and decide a set of promotions for the coming period, which are going to help us achieve the objective that we set up. This promotion strategy we want to build is going to be articulated around frequency, around product selections, around mechanics, and those product selections, those mechanics, those locations must be aligned with the shopping trend we have been selecting. If we selected basket, we need to make sure that we are going to work accordingly. If we have been if we have been working and selecting on spending, we have to do the same thing. So when I look back at my promotion effectiveness, the thing is I can look at the calendar and say, well, this is what we did last year. And that was the promotion mechanic, that was the result. And when I'm going to look at the results is you have several ways to look at the performance of your promotion, but there's one indicator we really like at Hypertrade. This is the impact on market share. So as you remember in Arian, you can look at the promotion of your product, the market share, sorry, of your product before the promotion, up to 12 weeks before without promotion, and the market share of that product at the end after the promotion. And this is how we are going to say, well, we're going to look at those variation of promotion. And this is how we are going to say, well, that was a very good promotion because I gained that much market share with that product. That was an okay promotion because I get market share, but a little bit. That was not a good promotion because there was no impact at all on the promotion. And we need to take the time to step back. Remember, a bad promotion is bad for the retailer and for the manufacturers and reciprocally. So there is a lot to lose together or to win together at that stage. When I look at these activities, I'm going to same thing. Oh, this is a mistype from my side. What we're going also to look at that level, we are going to look at the calendar. If you remember the promotion seminar, we look at what is my calendar, what is the number of promotions we've been doing, what is the calendar activity of my competition. And there is one thing which is always very important to note, it is that if I drive the category, if I drive the promotion dynamics of the category, it is good, it has to be a choice. If I overdrive the category promotion dynamics, it's good, it has to be a choice. It needs to have an objective. If I don't, it means if I am underperforming in terms of promotion intensity, my share of sales, there must be a reason. So as long as I do have a result, as long as I do have an objective, then I'm okay. If I have no objective, then I'm not okay because I cannot measure. This is the what we call the principle of acceptance. If I accept that my strategy was this, and well, maybe it didn't work, but I can own it and then I can work on it. If I cannot have an ownership of my objective, there is no way I can change that. So now it means that we have been through that complete process of analyzing the market, analyzing the performances, looking at the shoppers, looking at the performances of the promotions, looking at the promotion of the performance of the range. And every time we have been writing some notes on our paper. This is the moment where we are going to present. This is the moment where if I come back to the beginning of my presentation, this is the moment where I'm going to, well, let me go through this a bit quickly. This is the moment where I'm going to gather all these findings. Oh, I cannot find my slide anymore. Here it is. This is at this moment that I am able to write this. So as you can see, we've been going through all the steps: product, promotion, shoppers, market. And every time I've written my findings, and every time I have been writing the actions. And as I move along the way, there is some actions that I will say, oh no, this one actually is not aligned with what I've been doing. This action is actually very good with what I've been doing. The most important, as I was saying when we started this highly packed, fast, intense workshop, was to say, I need to follow a process. And we are always having the same conclusion for the people who join this webinar often. No process is very dangerous, because it means that there is no way you can show your understanding of the business. There is no way you can show how you understand the retailer category strategy or the way it is going. There is no way you can identify opportunities. So if there is one recommendation we want to have to close this theoretical approach on category management, on the category review, is follow the 6 steps. Maybe you don't go all the way. Maybe you just go a little bit on what you can, but follow the process. And I know there are some retailers here in the chat room. I think this is also something that they expect. Myself, when I was a retailer, this is what I was expecting. And I was expecting not only because it helped me save valuable time, but also because I know that not always all my teams have the ability to do this. And because I know that if we are two brains thinking on the same objective, which is uplift the category, increase the shopper's basket, increase the shopper's spending, we will have a much, much better result than if there is only one thinking about this. Now, for those who know, the good news is that you can automate almost 80% of this category review through Arian. It means that you can ask the system to create it automatically for you and then do the time, spend the time on the thinking and not on the crunching or not in the analyzing. Let me go back to the end of this workshop. So I'm going to go very, very fast. Remember that there is always, when you present your category review, when you present your promotion review, when you present anything, always the same thing. You always start by sharing your understanding of the retailer perspective. Always. It's all about them. Then when from the retailer view, and here we've been adding the market view, then you can switch to your view and say, well, your view is you analyze this. In that case, this is the whole work you've been doing from market and range and promotion and shoppers. Then this is your ideas. And then this is the impact. Remember that point also very critical, which is to say, we do not propose something that we cannot estimate the sales impact. Because if not, we could promise the moon tomorrow in the afternoon in a nice paper gift wrapping. And then the action. And I think this is a good category review, ends up by validating the directions, validating the strategy on shoppers, validating the promotion dynamic, and then taking already some actions about distribution, about promotion plan, about all the new item launch, and we start putting this in the calendar. How long does it take to present a category review? I would say maybe 15 minutes for you to present, and maybe something like 30 minutes for discussion, because the retailer has his own perspective. He might have questions. He might disagree on a certain number of points. Have another strategic imperative, which is in a way good for us, because if we can capture this, it means that the retailer is open enough with us to tell us what are the things that they want to achieve. We might have to come back, of course, and do some homework on some of the components of the strategy. But a good category review ends up with a commitment on a certain number of dates. Maybe this is a time for questions, and while maybe you are preparing your questions, information on the next workshop. The next workshop will take place in July, and we are going to focus mostly on shoppers' insights, on how we can dive a little bit deeper to understand what they're doing and what type of synergy here, again, we can think of building with the retailer to increase traffic, increase spending. That's it for me. Do you have questions, ladies and gentlemen? And we had two persons actually who I'm going to start answering the questions that have been sent to us. One question was, what is the best way to do category management? So I'm going to kind of repeat a little bit what I was sharing before. I think the best way to do category management is to have a process, and B is to understand what is happening at the retailer side. It can be online, it can be in physical stores, it can be in CVS. But if I can apply this one, a thought process to understand what is happening, then anything is possible. So my answer to this is establish a process. You can find process on the internet, you can find process from MyPortrait, you can maybe build a process with your own retailer that you agree upon, but follow that process. There was another question, which is a good question also, which is how can we penetrate the retailer with limited space? I think challenge, because you're right, some brands are very popular, some brands are not very popular, and it's difficult to win your space on the sun. So I would suggest you two things. The first one is to say, when you look at your category, you have several brands. And you have some brands who have a huge market share, and you have some brands which don't have a huge market share. So imagine you are in the position where you don't have a lot of market share. The retailer, of course, likes very much the brands with big market share, but he also needs to have some brands that are dynamic, smart, so they can play counterpower. So I would say the first approach is, can I position myself as a challenger? Can I share, demonstrate with facts to the retailer that I'm a challenger? How do I demonstrate that I am a challenger? Always coming back to the same thing. Show them that you really understand their strategy. Show them that you have identified opportunities for their category. So that's the key point. Because if you say, guys, because basically if you help them do their job, not giving lessons, not lecturing, then it means that they say, wow, that person has been doing a hell of a homework, and what she says makes a lot of sense. So by A, deciding whether you want to play the role of challenger, B, by demonstrating that you can be a challenger, well, that you will see the retailer is you will have a gain of credibility and trust with the retailer. And progressively, what you're going to ask is going to become much easier to access. Because every time I promote one brand, if I'm a retailer, I'm not promoting another one. So challenger, demonstrate trust and credibility. And you will always find a retailer that is, if you do that well, which is willing to play that game, because it's also in their benefits. They don't want to have too much dependence on big players. Do we have any other question there? No? So it means I have been extremely clear, which is a good thing. Oh, one question. Can you read it out, Kunta? Possible to share the recording. Yes, you can absolutely have. We're going to send you a worked out deck in this coming week. So it will not be exactly the same, but in the same spirit, with a bit more details. So you can really, hopefully, we hope you can use it for execution. And we are going to send you within a week or two an information where the video is available. So it's free of charge. We are very happy if it can help you in your training sessions with your teams. All right, then. So thank you very much, everybody, for taking the time, being with us. I hope that was a little bit helpful for you. I hope that you have one or two ideas that you will remember and want to set up. And of course, don't hesitate to contact our teams, Lani in the Philippines, Shui in Myanmar, B in the UAE, in Bangladesh, to help you going through this. And remember that everything can be automated. So that really depends on your willingness of saying, well, yes, I think today I really capture the fact that having a professional category review is a critical point for me to develop my business. Could you please explain for the range gap analysis? Yes, I'm going to explain this to you. The range gap. So let me open, if you don't mind, I'm going to share with you another screen. And if you want the person who asked that question, you might want to contact our team in Myanmar so they can send you back the details of the workshop we did on range. So give me a second. I'm going to share it with you. Okay. Okay. So the range effectiveness it's a formula actually. If you look at the mathematic formula, it's telling you that the range effectiveness is equal to the share of brand of assortment of the category divided by the brand share of sales. Now, what is the share of the brand assortment in the category? This is equal to the number of SKUs that the category has divided by the total number of categories. So we don't use it as an indicator. We very often use it visually, because if you look at this example there, you can see that from a brand perspective, I can see that this brand Mali has 15 SKUs. And this has, 15 SKUs. And those 15 SKUs represent 20% of the total SKUs. And with 20% of SKUs, Mali is contributing to 47.2% of the total sales. So it means that each percent of Mali assortment generates 2% of sales. So that's really very effective. If you look at another brand, you look at Cirrus. Cirrus in this example has 13 SKUs. With 13 SKUs, they almost have the same level of share of assortment as the brand Mali. You see, they have 7.3% of the total assortment, but their sales contribution, as you can see here, is only 8.2% versus 47.2%. So it means that the SKUs of this brand are selling much less, which is okay because you cannot only have top leaders, but here there are maybe too much SKU of that series. Too much because a lot of them must be delivering a very, very little sales contribution. So when you look at this range gap analysis, you're going to look at a brand perspective to identify what are the brands that are really effective in the category. But if you look at it from a more retailer perspective, you're also going to be able to look at it from a subcategory perspective. So here, if I look at this one, I can see that the energy drink has 16.9% of assortment and delivers 25% of the sales. This is actually, when you compare it, this is the most effective subcategory. Here, carbonated drink, 110 SKUs, generate 54% of the sales. Have 54.7% of the assortment. They only generate 51% of the sales. So it means there is a certain number of SKUs that are on the shelves, taking space, but not delivering results. And this one is, there is, in the past, manufacturers were really thinking that the more I have space on my shelf, the more I can sell. And maybe some of you guys still think that shelf elasticity, that's the name, or shelf velocity, is super important criteria of sales, and it is. But it is only if you have good SKUs. Because if you try to manage and use this shelf velocity driver with a set of low-performing SKUs, it doesn't help. On the contrary, it plays against the retailer because he's losing business over it. It plays against you. Now, what you guys all noticed during the last 2 years with the COVID-1, COVID-2, political instability, and now the conflict in Ukraine, what are the retailers doing? They rationalize because they say that I can't carry that many items. I can't carry that many assortment. So, which means that for the last 2 years, you have been, I'm sure, some of you guys, either if you're a retailer, you have been taking the decision to drive this optimization. But as a manufacturer, maybe you have been contacted by your retailer and say, guys, we need to reduce and we're not selling this item anymore. So to the point that now with all this trend changing all the time, we know that the assortment is very much like an accordion. It grows and decreases and grows and decreases, that there are a certain number of manufacturers that are now starting to work on model. And actually, we are also working with them on that to develop mathematical model to define the optimal number of products for a specific store. When you put a product in a store that doesn't sell, it costs you money. It costs you money because you have to pack it, you have to deliver it, you have to invoice it, you have to cash it in. You might have some people in the store that you pay to fill them up. And then after that, you have breakage. And because it doesn't sell, well, you have to return it. So this is why this range gap analysis to close this question is critical. Of course, you want to have a little bit, you want to give space and opportunities to new items. Of course, you can't only have top items, of course not. But you want to make sure that you are not carrying a tail of assortment that is you manufacturer costing you money and which has a negative impact with your retailer because he looks at these numbers the same as you do. Did that answer your question on range effectiveness and the gap analysis? Yeah. Okay, then. If you have additional questions, you can, of course, contact the team. We are super happy if that little knowledge we share can help you. Well, it means that the party is won. So thank you very much, everybody. Thanks a lot. You're welcome, you Nandamin. It's my pleasure. It's not easy. I mean, some of the things are for people who know for a long time, it seems like easy, but when you don't start, it doesn't mean it's not easy. Thank you, Monique. I hope it was interesting for you as well. Thank you very much, everyone. You have a great afternoon, and we'll send you the curated deck very, very soon.